Hi, everybody. Welcome to tonight's mindfulness practice. I'm Frank, and I'm here with Vivian. Hi, Vivian.
Hi, Frank. Hello, everyone, and welcome.
So let's start with some introductory comments. If you're new here, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. This is a drop-in class, so it's suitable for anybody with any level of knowledge or practice. Our goal is to make this stuff exactly the opposite of esoteric, to make it totally useful, like not even just an idea, but useful. We'll start with a brief introduction to the toolkit, and then we will get into tonight's practice and talk. So while I'm introducing us to tonight's topic, if you would, in the attendee chat, put a brief statement. Did you use a particular practice this week? Or did you notice any benefits from practice this week? Or have you had any personal insights from practice in this past week? You know, toward the end of each class, we invite you to try a practice in everyday life. And so some of you may be doing that, and we're curious how that's going for you. So you can pop that into the attendee chat. And while you're doing that, we want to let you know that these are the four principal skills we're talking about in this toolkit. But like any toolkit, there's a lot of tools in there, and maybe sometimes you can find them, sometimes you misplace one, or if you have kids, they take one. Anyway, these are the four skills we're talking about in this toolkit: mindfulness, inquiry, resilience, and stress management. They're interrelated, and so sometimes in a particular night we're talking about all of them together. Sometimes we're talking about one or the other. Vivian, before we start with this month's theme and tonight's class, shall we check in with some of these practices? People are using the
Yeah.
the Calm app or the Insight Timer. Those are both available in the Google Store and the Apple Store, and they have a lot of great stuff there. Let's see, I've been working on meditating, on being intentional but not conditional. Ooh, I really like that. It has resulted in much curiosity, many insights, and deeper focus. Nice. And then here's a challenge. Did not work this time for me. Mind clutter. Yeah, I know that feeling. And sometimes it's easy for us to like have this hope or expectation that if we did it once well, we should be able to do it well all the time. And sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. I like the phrase, right now it's like this. And when there's a lot of clutter in my mind, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
So,
I
oh,
I
go
like to
ahead.
think of it as the world functions in seasons, and this human here functions in seasons. So at any given point, it's going to be at a different phase.
And I like the idea of rapid cycling seasons. So, like, morning may be like spring, and then afternoon is
Yeah.
summer, and then early afternoon is fall, and then winter,
Yeah.
more or less.
Yeah.
Anyway, tonight's theme is this month's theme is Who Am I? And tonight's topic that Vivian will be guiding us in a practice about and talking about is me and my chosen loved ones. Over to you,
Yeah.
Vivian.
Thanks, Frank. So as we've shifted the order of things, we're going to do the practice first. So I just invite you to get comfortable. You can do this practice in any posture. You can do it laying down, standing, sitting. Of course, I'm going to be doing it sitting. Your eyes can be open or closed. One thing about posture, I just invite you to do it without movement. You can definitely do this in movement at some point. It just brings another level of complexity to the practice when you're actually in motion. So whatever posture is fine, just keeping it still as best as you can. Your eyes can be open or closed or anything in between. Sometimes when we have our eyes open, that's when all the thoughts curiosities, all these questions that want to come up, or images will come up when our eyes are open, but sometimes that happens when our eyes are closed. So in the hopes of you becoming more discerning and just learning a little more about yourself in this moment today, you can experiment. Eyes open, eyes closed, something in between, and see what works. And what I mean by in between is maintaining a soft gaze just a few feet in front of you. So kind of like this, a little downcast, and not really focusing on anything in particular. With your eyes closed, I invite you to let the eyes fall back into their sockets. We don't assume that you know or have familiarity with any of these practices, so all you have to do is listen to my voice. I'll give you prompts. There will be periods of silence, and that's to allow your mind an opportunity to take in the prompt and process it and practice with it and see what the mind does with it. So does it actually follow that prompt, or does it say, I'll do it for like a split second and now I want to think about dinner? Again, it's just an exploration, so stay curious and stay open. What does the mind do when in those gaps where there is a period of silence? And they won't be too long, but it's just an opportunity for you to, check in and kind of spotlight your awareness on what happens when there is no prompt. And as you're doing that, I want you to notice what's happening in terms of thoughts that are arising, body sensations, any emotions that are coming up, and also any body sensations that come up with emotions. One of the beautiful pieces of having a mindfulness practice and over time is being able to link up your body sensations with the emotions. So knowing how an emotion erupts in your body, or how it slowly makes its way in to be known that this is what's here. So the more you can kind of refine your awareness around your body sensations as an emotional connection, the more you're kind of creating those neural pathways to help you get to know yourself better and map out your mind. Doing all of this in a as gentle and friendly, kind and compassionate way as you can, bringing whatever effort you can bring to this practice in this moment. Again, knowing that you are a bundle of seasons and you might be in winter and requiring hibernation. So don't be alarmed if you fall asleep. It can happen. That's one of the things that can happen. So just staying really gentle with yourself. If you happen to come out of it and get back into the groove of whatever the practice is, wonderful. If you want to stop at any given point, or if your body just says, we're taking a nap, that's great too. Know that you're going to have this recording to revisit the practice at another time. So nothing is lost, and you will get some rest at the very, very least, which is always needed. So with that, I invite you to stretch up and settle in, or stretch out if you're laying down. And again, with eyes open or closed, taking a couple of deep inhalations, making sure that it's comfortable as well as deep. And exhaling. You can even sigh on the exhale. And doing that a couple of times until you really feel like you've arrived, you're here. You can connect with your intention for this session. Maybe it's helpful to reflect on very briefly why you're here, what you hope to gain, It doesn't have to be lofty. It could just be, I want to rest. I want to hone my mindfulness skills. And we'll begin with the 3-point check-in. And this is an opportunity for us to take stock of what's the state of our mind tonight, what's the state of our feelings, how our body is doing in this moment. So we'll start by offering attention to our mind, and usually we experience it in between and above our ears. So moving your awareness to that area, begin to notice if you feel alert, if you feel sleepy. Does the mind feel foggy or does it feel sharp? Is it easeful or is it frenetic? Is it curious? Maybe it's indescribable, but I still invite you to bring your attention to that area up and around the head. There might be a combination of sensations. What's the state of my mind? Ask that open-ended question and see what answer pops up. And from here, I invite you to come down into your heart and chest area, just bringing your awareness down and beginning to notice if there are any feelings happening right now. Happiness, contentment, sadness, confusion, excited, cheerful. Are you feeling pretty neutral? Is there a combo of emotions happening right now? And as you notice them, label them if you can. If there's anything that feels like it's creating a challenge in your practice, maybe coming back to the deep breaths and exhaling. And if you're hearing sounds, intermittent sounds, allowing them to be noted as sound. Now shifting one more time to note the state of our body right now, and noticing, are there any areas of pain or tension, areas that are soft and actually pleasant, areas that might be blank or neutral or have a void. You can do this by noticing the sensations in a particular area in the body, like the belly. Or you can open up your awareness and notice all the different areas that come into your attention that your mind notices. And when the mind notices a particular area and its sensations, I invite you to just note, what are the qualities of that sensation? So is it a throbbing sensation? Is it a tense sensation? Is there a vibration to it, a movement, or is it more stagnant and frozen? And if you're hearing any other sound other than the sound of my voice, I invite you to fold it into the practice. Notice how it makes you feel. Notice where you're feeling that. And as the mind kind of lifts away and moves into looking at whatever else it wants to notice, note that. See if you can invite it back. You can even label those things and be like, oh, that's a thought, that's a memory. Ooh, that's me planning. So noticing Where does my mind go? Does it stay with my body? Or does it flutter away? And now I'm going to shift the practice to a loving kindness practice. And this allows us to kind of note and stay anchored in our body and the sensations that are coming up as we bring to mind someone who is someone that we care about deeply. And hopefully, in caring for them deeply, the relationship isn't particularly complicated. And that could be a challenging combination of someone that we love deeply, but also have an uncomplicated and easy to be around relationship with. So if you want to practice in this way, I invite you to bring that person to mind. And of course, it could be any being. It could be a beloved pet. Sometimes those are easier to have uncomplicated, loving relationships with. But whomever you choose, just bring them into your mind's eye as vividly as you can. Feel their presence in whatever way feels natural for you. And we're going to send them some well wishes. This person or this being, they've been a gift to our lives and in our lives. So from our heart and in our thoughts, and in, again, whatever way feels comfortable for you, I'm going to be offering up statements, but I invite you to make them your own, to word them in a way that actually feels like it's in your voice. And you say to this lovely being, may you be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May you be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May you be healthy and strong. May you be healthy and strong. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be serene and at ease May you be serene and at ease. So feel those words, those intentions, those well wishes come out of you and touch that other person. Some people are visual, so they see it more as some sort of connection or a light. Maybe you're seeing it as how they're receiving it, their reaction. So as vividly as you can see them. Notice their expression. Notice how it feels like within you to be offering this. What's it like in your own body? And this being that loves and appreciates you as much as you do them. And they want those same well wishes for you. And so now we're going to switch it and recognize them sending those same well wishes back to you. And then I'll share them again. And they say to you, may you be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May you be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May you be healthy and strong. May you be healthy and strong. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be serene and at ease. May you be serene and at ease. Now noticing what it's like to be on the receiving end of those well wishes. Was it as easy to offer it out as it was to receive it? Was it the same? Was it different? In what ways was it different? And now imagining offering those wishes to yourself. And it might help to give yourself some physical support as you do this. And you can do this by holding your own hand or putting your hand over your heart. Whatever physical support that you think would help in this moment. Because we're going to check into our body afterwards and see what it was like to just wish these things for ourselves. I don't usually stop to give ourselves that kind of good wishes. And so you begin by saying, may I be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May I be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May I be healthy and strong. May I be healthy and strong. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be serene and at ease. May I be serene and at ease. And in this moment, maybe this has inspired you to think of things that you wish for yourself in this moment. May I have courage. May I have close and meaningful relationships. Think of anything else that I didn't share, anything that actually speaks to your personal experience in this moment, and offer it to yourself right now. And if you feel like you've built up a bit of a reserve in yourself of these good well wishes, see if you want to send them out to a group of people or someone else. Offer it out. Now taking a moment to offer yourself some gratitude for taking the time, to dedicating this time to practice, to get to know yourself a little better. To touch into your heart and give space to your mind and body to express where they are in this moment. It could be as simple as thank you mind, thank you body, thank you heart. And in a moment, we're going to be shifting out of the period of practice And as you do that, I invite you to take a couple of deep breaths in the same way we started. Becoming aware with each breath, your body's posture just as it is, the space that you're in, maybe taking a couple of stretches. As we shift into the explorations for the inspiration for that chosen practice. So with that, I invite you to, I see there was quite a few questions about noise, and I apologize. It was coming from outside, not within my space, so I couldn't control it. I hope that to the best of your ability, you're able to fold it into your practice. And just invite you to have any questions about that practice or explorations or reports of how that was for you. You're more than welcome to share that in the attendee chat or the Q&A, remembering that the Q&A is for Frank and me, and the attendee chat is for the broader discussion of the group. And in staying with the theme of who am I, last week Frank spoke about a short baby story, and this week I thought I would start it with staying with that vein and call it a winding life story. This being the exploration of the story that we actually create and amplify as adults. So humans are social beings. We we love to love and care for others, and to be in community and interact. And the truth of the matter is no matter how much we try and get away from each other, even if we wanted to, we can't. There's an interdependence that's required. Whether it's, I can't grow my food and build my car and all the roads and my means of communication and all of that on my own. I'm inextricably part of this human experience and very much dependent on my fellow human beings to support my existence. And a lot of times, as I was developing this slide, I was thinking about a man, I think his name was Christopher Thomas Knight, and when he made the news in like 2013, 2014, he was being dubbed as the last hermit on Earth. And he had basically lived in the woods of Maine from the 80s to like when he was found, 2013, 2014. He was actually found as he was burglarizing one of the homes or buildings in the area. And it turns out that he wasn't actually a hermit, right? I mean, it's sensationalized as being a hermit, but what they found out is that he had been this like boogeyman that everybody kind of knew was there or sensed there was something there, was stealing food and essentials over the course of those 20 years that he was in the woods. So as much as you want to extract yourself from the human experience, it's very hard to do because our needs are so many, from emotional to physical to psychological. And what also came to mind was this insane natural tragedy of the earthquake that happened in Turkey and Syria, and the images coming out and how they actually make us feel all these emotions. We empathize, we recognize the anguish and the frustration and sadness and sorrow in people's expressions, and the confusion and the despair. But how do we know all those things? We know all those things because they are part of our past. These are things that we've embedded and we know them. And if we don't have those feelings of empathy and sense of compassion and wanting to relieve others' suffering, we actually, as a community of humans, have decided that that's outside of our natural way of being and have created a category for those people. We call them narcissists or refer to it as narcissism, right? And so I just want to bring that home, that we are very much human and social beings as human beings, but that at the same time, I love this quote by Byron Katie. She's a really interesting writer with a very interesting set of techniques that she uses to help people. And she says, no two people have ever met. Even the people you know best and love with all of your heart are your own projections. And so one of the things we're going to explore is this seeming dichotomy, contradiction between these two ideas, is that we are social beings, we can't live without one another, and yet do we actually ever know each other in truth? And so our story about other people is always informed by our past experience. And I want you to test this for yourself. In any given situation, you find yourself in a circumstance where you're being treated very well. You're feeling great. And what you're doing is, if you're feeling great, it's being compared to some other point or another sequence of points in the past. So you'll think, oh yes, the thoughts that'll come up is, oh, I finally learned my lesson, and so I'm getting what I deserve. I deserve this, right? It's that there is a succession and a comparison happening when we do that. Or if something maybe unpleasant is happening compared to what we consider to be neutral, there's the thoughts of, oh, what have I done to deserve this or to bring this on? Or why is this even happening, right? This sense of inquisitiveness or confusion. Or if the same thing is happening over and over, maybe I haven't, and maybe it's something that you don't want to be recurring. You sense it as, there's some confusion, or I haven't learned my lesson, or I seem to draw this sort of thing into my space, into my life. And when there's something that doesn't quite match our past experience, the thing that gets kicked up, is our sense of confusion. It's like, why? What is this? Then we start getting, so what would be different, and how we can kind of approach an experience without having all of these past information informing the present, is really noting what's happening in the moment as it's happening, just as it is, without going into the details of it. Y'all, Frank, can I get you to get on here for a second?
Yes. So, one thing I've been thinking, because of the abundance of unexpected and unasked for sounds, is two things. One is, often what we do And I could see it in your face, and your face reflects what happens like when my cat or my dog or somebody's dog outside is doing it. It's like, no. And we do that in practice too. And so part of the invitation here would be recognize and acknowledge the initial reaction, which is, no, this is not the way it's supposed to be. Right? I still hope this, even though I know I would benefit from letting go of this hope, right? But it's like, so this is how it is right now, and can we work with that? Can we turn toward it and use it as a learning opportunity? Or I think maybe it was last week or sometime in the past, we talked about like sleepiness is the practice, or restlessness is the practice, and so I think of that in general. But then I also think of that like in terms of, so my dog, for example, does these existential crying for no reason other than he exists, right? And so that's a really great time, right? Not only turn toward the effect of the sound and our relationship to the sound, but loved ones are kind of noisy too, or they're always doing stuff that we wish they weren't doing. Sometimes they're doing the stuff that we wish they were, right? And sometimes they're doing stuff that we sort of have a neutral relationship with or to. And again, the invitation is, can we turn toward it and use that as practice? And I say that even those of us who are facilitating, because your face was my face when that's happening on my end. And again, it's like, okay, it's like this. If we could work in a sound studio, we'd love it, but then we wouldn't have so many opportunities to practice.
Thank you. Thank you.
So did you want to go on with the slides, or did you want me to cover the slides too? Okay.
Well, I just want to see, just as a sound check, is there anything, is the mic not picking up properly?
It is right now. There was a time when it dipped, but then it came back up.
Okay.
But somebody had also asked earlier, is there a mic on? Because, there was that Microsoft tone. Which was another right unasked for sound.
Yeah.
And again, it's the opportunity. So the surprise opportunity for tonight's practice is sound. I was thinking that tonight would have been a great time to do a sound meditation practice.
Completely.
But I also am thinking of it as resonating with tonight's topic, because so often, like I was thinking when you were doing the loving kindness part of the practice, right? So I was thinking of like, right now, I should try beaming that toward whoever was outside really loud, right? Or right now I should be beaming this toward, again, right? Like, if it was my dog or my cat, I'd be going, in my mind, my reactivity would be going, would you just? But then that's a really great time to practice kindness and compassion, and especially in this context of like other people in our lives, because I'm appreciating what you're saying and what Byron Katie is saying about like everybody else is just a projection, and a projection so often is our unwanted aspects given to somebody else.
Yeah. And so thank you for that, Frank. Yeah. And the projections can be pleasant, right? We can think of like when you first are, if you can think back to when you first started a relationship and how you really gave the benefit of the doubt to the person. The projections can be very positive to the point where you don't even notice what are often considered red flags in those circumstances, or things that maybe will come up as a challenge. So it's not so much about not having projections, because that's all that we're doing all the time. But if we can bring back some awareness into that, this is my reality is very much shaped by my projections. That's where the ability to kind of be able to direct the narrative becomes very apparent. That, oh, if I can shift the way I'm seeing the situation, I can shift how I'm relating to this person, and hopefully improve the circumstances. Because it really only takes one person to shift a dynamic. You don't really need both people to buy into a situation. And so on the slide, I speak to the fact that our loved ones are usually the greatest casualty to our perceptions. And that's by virtue of the fact that we have ideas about how they're supposed to act, who they are, that we think that we can predict their patterns and how they behave. So we get very mired in the idea that we know them and they maybe should. And we're going to talk about the should in the next slide. And absolutes, when we say, oh, this person always or never is like this or does that. And I would also add to that usually or sometimes, or not often. Like if you're already deciding the cadence of somebody's behavior, you've already fixed it. So again, there's a comparison happening. You're bringing the past to the present and not letting the present breathe and surprise you. And this side is very big and long for this, the time that we have. But these are all the ways that the mind can spin experience. It can approach things through having all or nothing thinking. It can approach it through overgeneralizing, minimizing things, or magnifying things. Think about how when something positive happens and you might minimize it by saying, yeah, but, and you give some sort of explanation that minimizes that circumstance, even though it's something that you should be celebrating. There's rigid thinking, and that's where the should statements come in, expectations of how a circumstance is supposed to unfold, labeling and more accurately, more often than not, mislabeling a situation, and personalizing everything, like blaming myself or others for a lot of the things, because we are interdependent, we're living in communities, and a lot of things are actually boil up from that interconnectedness. It's not one cause. There's probably multiple elements that cause a situation, but a lot of times we take it on ourselves or put it on another person as to blaming them for a circumstance. I had a lot more talking points on this, but I think I should, in the interest of time, move on. So what happens to our loves, the people that we care about most? They kind of become the whipping person for all those projections. But at the same time, they have their own needs, their own sense of priorities, and their own justifications for their actions. They have their own filters and their own spins that they're applying to the situation on what we call reality. So there's like my reality, and then there's their reality, where they're bringing all their considerations to. And then errors and misses can be seen more of a misalignment between, rather than mistakes or somebody's fault. So they might not be prioritizing in the way that you would prioritize a situation, and you want to blame them, but really they're kind of coming from their own perspective. And maybe our needs were met and maybe not, but can we focus on our needs now and how to meet them ourselves? The one beautiful advantage of being an adult and not a child is that you can bring forth the tools and to meet your emotional needs in the moment a lot of the time. But it really requires you to acknowledge, like, this is what's going on for me. I'm feeling, abandoned. Okay, what would I need in this moment to not have that sense of abandonment? And listing them out and seeing if any of those things you can actually offer to yourself rather than putting it on your loved ones to just guess at it. Frank, any thoughts? We've got like 2 minutes.
Well, one of the things I'm thinking of is, right, these same themes we'll be talking about next time, right? Because it really affects everyone and all relationships. So right now we're talking particularly about loved ones or people that we love and hope love us, right? And again, so next week we'll be covering this from a slightly different angle also. But that's the thing I think about, like, that mindfulness helps us with, is clearer perception and in a way, well, not in a way, and recognizing here the difference between this is my projection and this is you. This is who you are. Like, we've all had this experience of, we make this accusation to our partner, you are not my mother, or you are not my father. And it's like the other person's going, I never said I was, and I definitely don't want to be, or maybe I do, but right. And that's a really telling moment. There are a lot of resonance there. And one of the things that mindfulness helps with is the clear perception. Am I really directly relating to this person right now, or do I have an overlay or the ghost of somebody else here?
And it's okay to have the overlay. I mean, that's my take on it. It's like, it's not, the overlay is always going to be there. There was always going to be an overlay. As long as you have a brain that's filtering all the stimuli coming in, you're going to have overlay. But how much awareness are you bringing to that overlay? And how much are you letting it spilleth out? Right?
Yeah.
Can I keep it contained here?
Yeah, and I should probably more accurately say, instead of clear perception, clearer perception, right? It's like the idea that at least I recognize there's an overlay, and maybe I can, like, get the fingerprints off the glass, or that's as far as I can go with the metaphor and the amount of time we have.
So one of the things I want you to take home. Oh, can we do this real quick?
Yes.
Okay.
Or no.
Is no two people I've ever met. Is that true? Like, come to your interactions with the people you care about with new eyes and say, do I actually know you? Have I really met you, or have I only met what I think of you? And
I love that.
And you can notice it. Like, the triggers can be when you use any absolutes. If you catch yourself saying always, never, usually, sometimes, like, not even verbalizing, but even in your mind, if you're just thinking they always do this or they never do that, and note the mind's spin in a particular situation, and then bring it back to the body by focusing on the physical sensations that are arising as it's happening. That's my suggestion for practice for the week. Okay.
So next week, continuing the theme of who am I, only it'll be me and my workplace. So you may have detected a path here, right? We started with you're born into the world and your caregivers, and then your relationships and friendships, and now another kind of relationship that we all have, which is a workplace somewhere. So thank you all for being with us tonight.
And your grace. Your
well,
grace
say,
through the
thanks
technical stuff.
To the people outside who offered us a nice practice opportunity. And we will see you next time. Have a good evening.
Good night.